hardest part of the golf course. They are like concrete underneath. We use a 1.5-inch diameter tine that goes 8 inches deep. That's basically all any tine can handle. That's about the size of a tine. It needs to be a certain strength to go in our fairways. And 8 inches is as long as they can make it for as thick as they need to make it. So same thing, they go through and they punch the fairway with tines. In this case, 30 acres is way too much to be removing, cleaning up, and top dressing. So we take a very heavy duty steel drag mat behind the cart and we run over the fairway until all those cores are broken up. Break it up, break it up. Sometimes if we have the people and have the time, we will run a vacuum. But normally once you break it up enough and then run it over with a mower, you normally clean it up enough. And then water, everything will get it cleaned up. We cannot top dress the fairways. It would be ideal, it's just not economically.
It's not part of our plan.
It's not part of the plan as of right now. It's just too much sand to buy to top dress fairways every year. So anything's better than nothing on the fairways.
What ultimately happens on the fairways is we're not replacing it with sand. We're relieving that compaction. We're giving roots somewhere to go. We're putting back the old material, but it's buying us enough time, almost 11 months, until we need to do it again. Does that make sense? So you do it in the summer. By the next time we come around in the following summer, we've bought enough time. We have a healthy turf stand. We can withstand all the winter traffic, but then we got to do it again. Top dressing would be ideal. It's a huge cost. It is an astronomical amount of material to cover 30 acres with 1/4 inch of sand. I'm not saying it can't be done. I've come from clubs that have done it.
And what if you did it every 5 years? Would that have any impact?
What would happen is you actually create a layering system. So you'd have 5 years. Okay, so 1 year you put down 1/2 inch of sand, and then for 5 years you didn't do anything. Well, then that thatch layer builds on top of that sand. Then you do it again. You would look at a soil profile and it would show sand, thatch, sand, thatch, sand, thatch. And what would happen is those sand layers eventually would get thatch accumulated in them, and they would actually form a barrier where water couldn't penetrate. So then we'd have to aerify throughout the year just to get water to go down. So it's one of those practices as a club, if you're going to commit to doing it, it's a lifelong commitment. And that's the big, thing you got to swallow. Because we're talking $100,000 in sand a year for 30 acres. So anyhow, sorry, man.
Just to go back over here, talking about the tees and fairways and top dressing, we have plugs that we've taken out of each section of the course, greens, tees, and fairways. In the fairways, you can see this is about as hard as concrete, and the thatch layer is 3 inches thick on this thing. And while this gets aerified the same as the tees getting top dressed and backfilled with sand and good material over time is not as hard as a rock. And you can see roots coming out the bottom of this and all the sand that's actually in this plug. The roots aren't coming out the bottom because roots can't really grow in slimy clay concrete. So by not backfilling with sand and top dressing afterwards, over time it just kind of seals back up and we're back to square one, punching again in April. But it does show what we have accomplished by punching, top dressing, and fixing some of the land that our good grass is on. Just another picture. As I was punching number 1 green one day, I decided to take a picture of the guy punching number 1 fairway. It's kind of how our morning starts on the first morning of verification. I'm out punching greens, someone's out punching fairways, guys punching tees, people everywhere punching holes. It's the beginning.
It's tough to see, I'm sorry.
On to rough and traffic areas. Rough and traffic areas, cart traffic, the biggest issue. You're driving up, you see our stakes everywhere. That's to try and, we put out stakes to try and divert traffic back and forth different places. If cars consistently drive over one spot over and over and over and over again, all of a sudden you got very weakened turf, starts to yellow out and eventually die. You got big bare spots everywhere, and it's unsightly. So we go out during aerification week with a tractor that we actually have here. It's a much smaller tine. It's a 3/4 inch tine, goes 4 inches deep. It's very similar to the greens tine. It's just a lot thicker, heavier duty because it's punching through the hard, compacted areas on the course. The reason for the smaller tine and not the larger tine is just that's the only tine that our machine that we actually own can handle. So it's same as the fairways. We break it up with the drag mat, with top dressing, but we have noticed traffic areas from when we first got here that had no turf on them or very weak turf. Over the last few years, we've gone out and made it a point to punch these traffic areas and put out stakes. And now, while there are spots, noticeable spots where cars go back and forth, there is nice, healthy turf there. And as long as we can keep moving stakes and diverting traffic, we should stay there. But this is just an example. We've got going around areas that we wouldn't normally think to go through. The picture of the different tines, the 8-inch very heavy duty fairway tine and the much smaller traffic area. Ideally larger, but it's what we can work with for the traffic areas. Just some pictures of cart traffic that you see coming around the course. It's not something that you can really get people to change or do different. You know, we're all creatures that habit. You drive, you go into the green, it's the shortest way to the path. I'm going to the path, I'm going. We put out signs, you're going to drive where the signs are. It's up to us to get out and move them. But this is just a picture. A lot of car traffic coming off number 11 there. You can see how the turf is becoming weak, yellowing out. If we don't start driving other places, that's eventually going to get even weaker, start to go away. And now we need to find a way to get grass there. Same with here. You can see our stakes, where we have the stakes right now. It's nice and green, nice healthy grass. Right past the stakes where everyone's been going for that week, it's already starting to get hard. Turf's getting weak. And just to show you, so we'll go out and we'll move those stakes up to that spot, and then you'll start driving the spot before. But aerifying traffic areas has become a big part of what we do, and it seems to really help and make for non-unsightly areas.
All right. Well, Matty, thanks. What I'm just going to do is we're going to close here with just some successes we've had here at Grasslands. Since I've been here in 2008, we have managed to impact between 15 and 20% of all of the surfaces on the golf course that we've aimed to do. So we have met our goals. Maybe one day, if our turf decides it's going to produce a thatch layer that we can't control, we might have to exceed 20%. But part of my plan now, is to keep us between 15 and 20%. The tees, like Matt had said, I would like everybody, if you have time after the seminar, to come up and look at these and physically touch them. It's unbelievable the difference. The tees out here have a better sandy soil composition that we have made, that we have amended, that we have changed. Overall turf quality on tees and fairways, it speaks for itself. It's improved. You can look out across this golf course and really see the difference in overall quality and consistency. Aerification has helped us do that. It's made everything out here more consistent and the same. Root depth has increased everywhere. And like Matt just said, we have had literally zero visible turf loss since we've been here. We've implemented our stake and sign program, and we've aerified all of these traffic areas. One thing we haven't told you is that traffic areas probably get punched 5 or 6 times a year. We'll actually do these areas on a closed Monday. We might only get 4 or 5 holes done at a time. We brush them and mow them, and it's in the tall grass and you don't see it. but it's